Hello and welcome to a quick look. Me, GamerWolfSix, of another furry visual novel. One that has a decent intro, as it seems. A Fall from Grace. A game about, as I'm looking at the synopsis, set in a fantasy world inspired by 1700s England. Follows Cedric, a nobleman coyote. It's kind of funny saying that. Nobleman coyote, trying to live a life that might be too big for his pockets in a small country town. One evening, upon drinking with some close friends, everything is upended by a surprise encounter that will change his life forever. This is a story of following your own path, embracing your inner desires, and falling in love. So anyways, before we start, if you're interested in playing this game, you can get it for free on itch.io. But if you want to support the people that make this game and or get the news version earlier, then you can go to their Patreon, where it's $2 a month. Though I just want to check something. Okay, yeah, they had an update in October of 2024. As of recording. Because, this is what, 17 episodes into the future? So a good couple of months. Is there anything else? Oh yeah, if you want me to do a let's play of this game, then tell me, and I'll give it a point which will put it up higher on the user's choice list. Also, if you have any other furry visual novels that you want me to quick look, tell me, and I'll give it a point, and I'll put it in the random number generator of quick looks. So I think that's everything, so let's reset our face, and start. Boids. But are they bird people or bird birds? And checkmate. I win. It's not fair. You're so much better at this game than I am. Oh, Cedric, you can't be good at everything. Besides, you did fine today. A worthy effort indeed. It's easy for you to say. You've just won. Though, well, he does have 3 pieces to your 1. Though that would be kind of hard to do, I think. Cedric folded his arms angrily as he turned to look the other way from where his friend Victor was seated. The 2 kids were resting in a shady spot in a large garden that stretched out behind Cedric's family home. The chess match had taken up most of the afternoon, and by now the sun was beginning to set, soaking everything in a beautiful orange light. A small lake, the various trees, garden follies, I'm not sure what a folly is, and statues that had an almost magical look to them, as if they were friendly spirits watching over the 2. Come on, you have many other talents, such as wooing. You're a great artist. I've seen your sketches. They're absolutely fantastic. The one you drew of my dad was amazing. You're just saying that. I'm serious. He's still got it hanging in the wall above his bed. Ooh, spooky. I don't know. There was a short pause as Cedric smiled at Victor's kind words. Thanks. I really appreciate it. Although I know my parents would not agree with you one bit. Your parents are wrong about a lot of things. Art is one of your great talents. Being pedantic is another. I guess pedantic's a word that's not good, but I don't really know. Oh, shut up. Maybe I should do a very I was gonna say French accent, but then I guess it's more of an English accent. The 2 laughed as Cedric got up and stretched a little before gazing towards the setting sun. Her garden looks so beautiful today. It's Tuesday. Cedric was only half listening and turned to face the fox for a few seconds later. You know, it's not fair. My family is all this. When we're older, I'm gonna make sure you're given half of this property at least. Are they related? I mean, one looks like a wolf and the other looks like a fox. Victor lets out a slightly melancholy chuckle. Don't make promises you can't keep, you rascal. I mean it. You're my best friend, and I'd give you everything if I could. I'd love to see your family live in a home as lavish as mine. They're gay. Well, I guess this is an 18 plus furry visual novel. Is it 18 plus? Wrong. Maybe. Well, I might be foolish, but I still believe in miracles. Victor got up, walking to where Cedric was standing, and gently held his friend's hand. Promise me you'll never leave me, Vic. What? Promise me you'll always be here with me, no matter what. Where's this coming from? Of course I will. I know. I just need to hear you say it. Please, Vic. You have my word. I'll be by your side forever, Cedric. The sound of some distant fiddling reached their ears. The ball Cedric's family was hosting that evening had already begun. The chatter of guests could already be heard coming from the house. Also, is this one... sorry, is this kind of getting those feelings of, it's not 100% specific or out there, but it's like there's this kind of gay undertones thing. Kind of like, what was that one movie, Ben-Hur? Like, I never caught it when I first watched it, or kind of in general, but it's like, oh, it's kind of like hinting that these two used to be a thing. And I'm not sure if, what was that one movie called? Count of Monte Cristo? Anyways. But they were very good friends. Until they betrayed each other. I should be off now. My parents want me to greet some of the guests. That's fine. My dad will probably need help. I just had coffee. Why are there reading yawns coming up? My dad will probably need some help lining the tables and getting food out of the kitchen. See you tomorrow then? Victor smiled reassuringly as they started making their way back towards the house at a rapid pace. See you tomorrow. And with that, the fox was off, soon fading out of view in the dimming light of the evening. Cedric, listen to me. We're worried about you. You should be ashamed of yourself. Playing chess? Look at me. You're never to see him again as long as you live in this house. Is that clear? Have you no consideration for your parents? How many times have we talked about it like this? All for nothing. We hope you would have heeded our advice by now. Cedric, you never listen to us. We've warned you time and time again, and we've had it. If you keep wasting your life away, mingling amongst the people like him, then we have no choice. As of now, you're no longer welcome in this home, or as a part of this family, until you smarten up. Yeah, playing chess. It's not a smart people thing. Maybe we should have done this long ago, but perhaps the real world will knock some sense into you. Now get out. Cedric suddenly opened his eyes, startled by the loud noise he heard. He looked around worriedly, wondering where it might have come from. Then he noticed a mug next to him and quickly realized the noise he'd heard was actually just someone slamming it onto the table. Cedric, hey, are you alright? Cedric jolted as he felt someone tugging at his right sleeve. For a moment, he had been overcome by thoughts and memories he often did his best not to think about. He sat still for a while, staring numbly at the lion sitting beside him. Are you alright? The lion's tone became slightly more insistent as Cedric noticed how ridiculous he must have looked to everyone sitting nearby. I'm fine. Sorry, I went quiet a bit there. I was just thinking of something. Whatever it is, can it not wait until tomorrow? Tonight is supposed to be a jolly occasion. Do try to not spoil it by being all moody. Cedric nodded. It was as if he was awoken from deep slumber, but everything was quickly becoming clear once again. He glanced around the tavern as he saw the innkeeper pass by. He looked over at the other tables where folks were sitting, making merry with their meals and drinks. Cedric had only been in this tavern a few times in his life, and that had been many years ago. But still, the atmosphere felt oddly familiar. Not exactly cozy, but quite laid back and cheerful. Lanterns hanging from the wooden beams, the old stone walls, as well as the wooden barrels above the counter, all give this place a rustic feel. Sorry, for some reason I'm just thinking like, I guess they might have done this at something, but like heavy barrels full of like wine or beer or something like that directly above here. It's like, you really hope you have a good mason so those don't crash right through. He still felt slightly uneasy though, and a bit of envy got the best of him as he gazed at other patrons sitting at their tables and enjoyed themselves. Finally, he set his eyes on the familiar shape of his friend Lysander? It's probably something completely different. By now, the lion had gone back to chatting and drinking with the two friends he'd brought along for some company. Cedric was adamant about not wanting to spoil the mood, and soon joined in the playful banter. I swear. I guess that's a bird? I've never seen a bird person with facial hair like that. And no lower beak? I don't know. If that bloke at the table on the far left had anything more to drink, he'd fall off his chair. He'll have some good company if you keep this up, Bill. Isn't this your fifth pint? For Bill, that counts as number one. How are you doing, Cedric? You seemed a bit quiet just now. Oh, I'm fine. That is Cedric for you. Always so glum at the worst possible time. Hey, I didn't decide to. You know what? Never mind. You still staying at Lysander's aunt's place? Since his parents kicked him out, yes. Cedric scowled as the others laughed. Lee helped me out. Lucky his aunt's a lovely old lady. It was the least I could do, considering the blame for the whole endeavor falls upon me. What do you mean? Backstory time? Or what was my phrase? Story time. Well, you fellows know that I'm not the best at saving money. Cedric is of a similar disposition, and his parents got tired of it. Oh, I see. You're lucky your folks are as rich as they are, like lying. Or you might be in a comparable situation. Pfft. No need to lecture me, Jack. Cedric is already good enough at that. Hey! If there was one thing Cedric didn't like about Lysander, it was the fact that he didn't know when to ease off on the insults, even if it was all in good fun. But overall, he was a pleasant person to be around, and Cedric was very grateful to him for his assistance since he'd essentially become homeless. The last few months had been tough for him, but Lysander had been there to help him through thick and thin. Before he could lose himself to his thoughts again, he focused back on the conversation which had turned towards drinking games. This one particular was his favorite amongst the group. Giving each other dares that would normally be simple if they weren't all so drunk. Cedric, your turn. Alright, Jack, run around the table 3 times. Sure. Jack was already beginning to slur his words slightly. All the more reason it would be funny to see him try to run around in a circle. That's way too tame, Cedric. Be nasty. Cedric simply cannot be nasty. It goes against his sweet and caring nature. Well, someone's in love. Jack was stumbling around the table and almost lost his balance after saying that, much to the amusement of everyone. Lysander, however, had seemed to go a bit more red in the face at the comment. Your turn now, Bill. Very well, then lie. Ha, I should have known you would have chosen me. What sort of Herculean task must I accomplish this time? If you like Cedric so much, I want to see you kiss him. Jack fell onto his chair after completing the task. Ooh, that's a good one. The color seemed to suddenly leave Lysander's face as he sat there in shock. He began to collect himself quickly, however, and crossed his arms angrily. That's silly and immature. I'm not gonna do it. Come on, Lie. Since when were you concerned about being mature? Shut up, Bill. I'm not doing this. Think of another one. Things were beginning to grow a little tense, and Cedric tried to alleviate the thickening atmosphere. It's alright. Lysander, it's just a game. It's disgusting, that's what it is. I'm a man, not some sort of silly girl you think you can make fun of. Not even a kiss on the cheek? That's perfectly acceptable. Be a good sport. At this point, Lysander's face seemed to grow even hotter. Whether it was from embarrassment or anger, the boys couldn't tell. Fine. Lysander quickly leaned in and gave Cedric the lightest kisses on the cheek. So light, in fact, that Cedric almost didn't feel the line touch him at all. The others cheered and had a good laugh, while Lysander looked somewhat relieved, but still very uneasy. Happy now, you perverts? You're too next, Lie. You've earned it. Lysander let out a sigh and allowed that familiar smirk of mischief from earlier in the beginning to return to his eyes. Very well, Jack. I want you to do the same thing to Bill. Okay, but what if Bill tried to do it to Jack? I mean, that would be a pack. The rest of the evening seemed to fly by as the group passed the time joking, drinking, and enjoying themselves. The slightly tense moment had soon been forgotten about, and Lysander was at ease, being his usual boisterous self again. It was only when the innkeeper told him he was closing that they finally got up from their table and clumsily made their way towards the door. The streets were quiet and deserted as friends made their way home. Bill and Jack's homes were the closest, whilst Lysander and Cedric had to get to the other side of town to reach theirs. It wasn't a very long walk, though, and the town was on the smaller side, bigger than any village close by, but nothing compared to the larger towns farther east. They were walking through one of the wealthier neighborhoods, which had a few old houses scattered here and there, but consisted mostly of buildings that had been redecorated or entirely rebuilt in the last 100 years or so. Cedric often thought that was a bit of a shame, as the old Tudor houses had a certain charm to the newer buildings that the new buildings were lacking entirely. The streets were also lit with rows of hanging lanterns, which the town had been gifted by some wealthy visitor many years before. These were beloved by everyone, as they helped make the whole place look unique and even slightly oriental. More importantly, they also helped the streets stay safer at night. We're going this way, you drunkards. The lion gestured towards the side street, as neither Bill nor Jack seemed to realize exactly where they were headed. In fact, they were all completely drunk and heading in the wrong direction, including the ever-confident Lysander. Oh yes, home is that way. It is? The others chuckled as they took the side street. The dares are funny. You can't change my mind. Jack tried to say something, but slurred sounds that came out of his mouth were not easy to interpret. You're quite fond of them, aren't you, Bill? They just get everyone to loosen up a bit, except a certain lion I know. Oh, please. Of course, I would have a hard time loosening up when asked to kiss one of my closest friends. I'm not a tail-raising pervert. It was just a joke, Lie. I'm not expecting you to marry Cedric. Cedric didn't get many dares. Yeah, we went easy on him tonight. Oh, someone in the shadows. The group's pace quickened a bit as they started walking down the slope. Without even noticing it, they had left the wealthier neighborhood behind them and had reached one of the poorer parts of town. The streets were narrow, and the buildings more run down. Rows of lanterns were also gone, and had been replaced by a few irregular, solitary lights hanging from the sides of some houses. Overall, the atmosphere felt much less safe than where they had been walking a few minutes before. Hey, Cedric? Yeah, what? I dare you. I dare you to go into the dark alley over there. Lysander pointed in the direction he meant and began to giggling slightly. And why should I do that? 'Cause it would be funny. Cedric gazed at the alley for a moment, as his brain tried to decide what was the best thing to do. Alright, Mr. Comedian, I will. Cedric slowly made his way towards the alley, determined to prove something to his friend. What that something was hadn't made itself entirely clear, however, and he began to hesitate as he got closer. Come on, you can do it. Go on, you chicken. That's racist. Something didn't seem right. Cedric came to a halt and glanced warily at his friends before finally stepping in the alley and out of sight. And if Cedric had turned back then and there, perhaps nothing might have happened that night. He has 2 daggers. And a sword? In fact, none of the friends would have encountered the masked figure who was waiting for them in the shadows. Lysander and the others stood still for a moment, as they waited for Cedric to reappear. Hey, Cedric? Are you alright? Why isn't he coming back? I don't know. Where is he? A few seconds later, the coyote finally re-emerged from the darkness. The others were very relieved to see him. He gave us such a fright. But soon they noticed there was someone else with them, and the someone was holding a dagger to his throat. Your money, pretty boys, and nobody gets hurt. The group stopped in the tracks as the figure walked up to them. There was a short and awkward silence as they began looking around worriedly. None of them were sure what to do, let alone if this was real or some drunken hallucination. I said, your money, if you want your friend to make it home tonight. The bandit's tone became more like a growl. Cedric squirmed a bit as the blade began to press into his neck, his anxiety rising by the second. Please, guys, do as he says. Bill was the first to move, taking a step forward and fumbling with something in his pocket. Nice and easy, boy. Just like that. The moonlight reflected upon the metal that Bill drew from his pocket, illuminating not coins, but something with a handle. Let him go, you low-life bastard. In an attempt of drunken bravery, Bill grabbed his small pocket knife and rushed towards the aggressor. The bandit let it aside at this, shaking his head. They always had to make things difficult. As Bill got closer, the bandit sidestepped out of the way with Cedric. Unfortunately, he failed to take into account the drunken sway of the man. Ouch. The pocket knife arc turned unexpectedly, slicing through Cedric's upper arm. The bandit released the grip and used his now free movement to grab Bill and swing him back towards the others, stumbling briefly before falling and rolling to their feet. Ugh. Cedric fell to his knees, gripping his arm as he yelled in pain. But Bill managed to get up and decided to make a run for it, as now was the best option. He was quickly followed by stumbling Jack. So wait, they went to attack and then they were like, oh, no, let's get out of here, because he moved to the side. Lysander stood there for a few more moments as he looked around with sheer terror on his face. The bandit put his arm around Cedric and forced him up again, returned his dagger to the coyote's neck once more. Your money, or I'll slit your friend's throat. The line was off like the wind before the bandit even managed to finish the sentence. Lysander, hey, help me! Lysander turned to glance at his friend, but showed no sign of wanting to slow down. The two shared one last look, their eyes filled with terror at the thoughts that this would be the last time they'd ever see each other. Lysander also had a look of regret about him as he abandoned his friend, knowing the bandit would certainly kill him. The lion soon disappeared from view and was swallowed by the dark of the night. The bandit let go of Cedric, who fell to the ground. He slowly paced up and down, close to where Cedric was crouched, panting and clutching his arm, as blood started to pour out from the wound. Oh, from Cedric? He was feeling dizzier with each passing second, with each passing moment, and everything was starting to grow dim. Well, that failed spectacularly. Fuck. The bandit threw one of the daggers to the ground in frustration and let out a long sigh. Then he turned to Cedric. At least I got one of you. Now, you be a good boy and keep quiet. He knelt down and reached for his victim's pockets, the dagger still held with precision towards his throat. There was a moment, then, that the bandit froze, as the moon appeared from behind the clouds, allowing him to get a better look at said victim. Oh, is this going to be our fox friend? What the? Cedric, is that you? Okay, it is. By now, Cedric was not able to answer, as he felt his eyelids grow heavy, and everything around him quickly transitioned to pitch black. That thumbnail time? Boop. A pleasant smell filled Cedric's nose, grabbing his attention as soon as he opened his eyes. He seemed to be in an old building that it had been decades since anyone had called it a proper home. The sunlight shone through the broken windows and the large cracks that ran along the wall. By now, Cedric was fully awake and was starting to become worried as his mind began racing at the events of last night prior catching up to him. Where was he? Why did that bandit spare him the night before? How did he know who he was? He tried to move as quickly and was quickly reminded of the wound on his right arm as soon as he did. Ow! It was still quite painful. However, he immediately noticed that it had been tended to, and someone had carefully bandaged it up. He was lying on an old straw bed, and his back had been propped up against the wall. He caught a whiff of the smell like boiled potatoes. Hey, is anybody there? What's going on? Whoa there, everything's okay. Don't panic. The bandit from the previous night walked into the room. He was no longer wearing his mask, and Cedric got a good look at his face for the first time. He was a fox, about his own age, with a long, thin muzzle and flowing black hair or dark hair. Cedric wouldn't believe his eyes, and sat there in silence for a moment. Are you alright? Victor, is that you? Cedric, it is you after all. The fox smiled gleefully as he put down a plate with a couple of boiled potatoes next to where Cedric was lying. It's nothing much, I'm afraid, but this is the food I had. I did manage to get some good bread the other day, but I finished it yesterday evening. Sorry. What are you doing here? I mean, where is here? Well, it's fairly simple. This is how I live these days, and this is where I stay when I'm in town. Yesterday evening, I decided I would mug a couple of drunks, but that didn't go too well, as you know. How long is it supposed to have been? And then I realized one of them, the one who ended up getting stabbed, was you. I'm sorry about that. It's okay. I'm just taking it all in. Of course, you'll need a moment to gather your thoughts. Cedric was quite dumbfounded. He could never have anticipated this. It was as if he was dreaming, and he almost felt like pinching himself to see if this was actually occurring. He thought it might be best to try some casual conversation for the sake of it, rather than just sitting there like an idiot. How are you doing? As well as can be, I guess. Just getting by the way I can. What about you? How are you doing? Obviously, not too well right now, but you know what I mean. Not bad. Just living my usual and slightly boring life. This was followed by more silence, as Cedric quickly realized small talk wasn't going to get them anywhere anytime soon. He glanced away from Victor for a moment, as he gathered the courage to put what he was thinking into words. Victor, you've become a bandit? How did that happen? Victor remained quiet for what seemed like quite a while. That's a story I'd rather be telling your parents. That's a story I'd rather be telling your parents about than you. That's a story I'd rather be telling your parents about than you. What do you mean? Are they directly responsible for... No, no. It's not like that. It's just, after they forced my family to leave the estate, we had no money at all. My father began looking for employment elsewhere, but it wasn't easy. So I resorted to stealing. It went well at first, but I should have known it wouldn't last. One day, I was caught, and they threw me in jail for 2 excruciatingly long years. During that time, my dad found a job, and once I was free again, I found out my family wanted nothing more to do with me. As such, I've had to make my way living this way. So, yeah, I've moved from town to town, but I've always stayed in and around this area for now. Cedric had often wondered what happened to Victor, but actually hearing the whole story from the fox was the first time, for the first time, was quite a gut punch. He felt awful about it. Worse than that, he felt completely powerless, as he hadn't been able to do anything to help his friend when he needed him most. Victor, I had no idea. I hadn't seen you since the day my parents forced you to leave. I wanted you to know I was always completely against it. You were my best friend. I still can't believe I'm actually talking to you. It is a strange situation, isn't it? The fox smiled gently as he began eating a share of the potatoes. What must you have thought of me when you recognized me? A drunk idiot whose life is in shambles. I'm ashamed of myself. Oh, come on. You've got nothing whatsoever to be ashamed of. You seem like exactly the same lovable idiot I used to know. A lovable idiot who always used to get you into trouble, you mean. Remember that time we stole all my father's wigs? How could I forget? That was your idea, you rascal. Yeah, and you went along with it. We weren't always up to no good, though. Sometimes I was busy beating you at chess. Hey, I won a fair amount of those matches. Victor gazed at the coyote with an amused but skeptical look. All right, more like 2, but I still won. What about art? Have you kept up with drawing? Cedric looked away, as if he were slightly embarrassed. Victor had brought up the subject. I gave that up years ago now. That's a shame. You were seriously talented. The two kept chatting as they ate together. Cedric had almost forgotten just how close he and Victor were, and it didn't take long for either of them to feel comfortable about talking about anything. Yeah. Cedric couldn't help feeling a sense of shame, though, through all this. Victor had been through so much, yet here he was, making the best of what he had. Cedric, on the other hand, he'd seemingly squandered away his life, as well as his fortune, and was left with almost nothing. He needed to turn things around. He needed to fix his past mistakes, and he needed to get his act together. After talking for what quickly became more than a few hours, Cedric was doing much better and felt ready. Oops, sorry. Reading notes. I don't know why when I read it tends to do that, but it is what it is. Ready to head home. He told Victor as much, and the fox nodded in agreement. Yeah, you should head back before anyone gets too worried. I might just have to ask you one favor, first, though. You're a great friend, and I trust you dearly, but I must make sure no one can find this hideout. So... He hesitated for a moment, looking slightly embarrassed. I'm gonna have to blindfold you for a bit. Oh, I understand. Of course. Just, I can't guarantee I won't die walking down those stairs. I'll make sure you don't meet a premature end. Don't worry. A few minutes later, Cedric was standing in a narrow alley close by as Victor took off the cloth he'd wrapped around his friend's head. So, I guess this is goodbyes for now then. I think so. It's been quite unexpected, but absolutely lovely seeing you again, V. And I hope to see, and we'll see each other again soon. I somehow doubt it, but hey, never say never. Goodbye, Victor. Take care. Cedric began walking away at a fairly uneven pace, as part of him desperately wished he could stay there. You too. Victor gazed as his friend grew smaller and eventually turned the corner and disappeared from sight. You too. He almost muttered that to himself as he felt his heart sink at the thought of being separated from Cedric again after so many years spent apart. That's it? Okay. Cedric was walking at a fast pace as he thought about everything that had just happened. He felt reinvigorated after seeing Victor, and although he hadn't spoken to of this to the fox, like he would be able to turn his life around and perhaps prove to everyone, including himself, that he wasn't completely useless. He was on his way to his parents' house. This was another spur-of-the-moment decision, but he felt like he needed to have a proper talk with them. However, as he kept walking, a few less optimistic thoughts started creeping up on him. How was he going to prove to his parents he could turn things around? Would they even want to talk to him in the first place? He also began thinking back on that day, many years before, when Victor's family had been forced to leave this home. Cedric's father said it was because it wasn't right for the son of a nobleman and the son of a servant to be close friends, as Cedric and Victor were. And they almost certainly were the closest friends, as there was a time when they would spend most of their waking hours together. As he kept talking, Cedric couldn't help but wonder if there was some other reason why his parents had been worried about their friendship. Soon he reached the old building, whose imposing appearance grew more menacing with each step he took towards it. He reached for the door and stood still for a moment. There was nobody around, and only the faint sound of a cart passing by in the distance broke the overbearing silence. There was a damp feel in the air as the sky grew more and more overcast. Okay, Cedric. It's now or never. All you gotta do is knock. Just knock. He automatically raised his right arm, immediately remember it was still quite sore. Damn it. Cedric paused for a moment as he gathered his courage. Then the moment turned into a few minutes, and soon the few minutes became far too many. He slowly lowered his arm and began moving away from the door, looking utterly defeated. I knew it was going to be this way. What was I thinking? As if they'd take me back again after everything that's happened. Cedric let out an aggressive sigh as he quickened his pace and walked into the direction of Lysander's aunt's house. As soon as... I don't know why I find this place looking a bit funny. As soon as he set foot inside, he was greeted by a familiar, flowery perfume the entire house emanated. Aunt Jane was sitting in a chair, having one of her many daily cups of tea. She didn't move, but clearly noticed Cedric's arrival. Tea. Is that you, dear? Good afternoon, madame. Where have you been? I was starting to get worried. Cedric knew she actually didn't really want to hear his reply to that, as the poor lady couldn't concentrate for very long, but he tried answering anyway. Well, a lot of things happened last night, and let's just say I tried to... That's nice, dear. Have you seen that blue china bowl I use for soups? I'm sure one of these servants has nicked it. Which for people who don't speak English is stole. No, I haven't. He grumbled as he sat down in his usual chair and tilted his head up towards the ceiling. Margaret's stepsister's cousin's husband came to visit me yesterday. I genuinely have no idea who you're talking about. Cedric wasn't doing a good job of hiding his rising anger at the current situation he was in. He's lovely, and he gave me 2 beautiful candlesticks, like the ones your grandfather used to own. Ma'am, I'm not your nephew. I'm his friend, Cedric, remember? Oh, of course, Cedric dear. For a moment, I thought Lysander was here with us. Speaking of Lysander, where is he? He told me he was visiting his parents this morning. Did he mention me at any point? I don't recall, dear. Cedric snorted sarcastically at the thought of what kind of person would leave their friend in danger and not even bother to find out what had happened to him. Lysander was such an inconsiderate, egocentric prick, and the coyote began to wonder why on earth he was still friends with him. It was, at that precise moment, the door swung open and the lion himself walked in. Is lunch ready? Haven't you already eaten, dear? I had lunch a few hours ago. Lysander was taking off his overcoat and hadn't even noticed Cedric. Well, I have not, so I would appreciate some food. Alright, Lizzie. Aunt Jane got up from her chair and headed towards the kitchen. I told you not to call me And she's gone. She disappeared into nothingness. Cedric, what on earth happened to you? You're all dirty and bandaged up. Oh, that's a laugh. You asking me what happened after you left me at the mercy of an armed bandit? Well, what was I supposed to do? Run into your arms and get stabbed to death? Calling for help would have been nice. Cedric raised his voice as he started to get up from his chair. Look, I panicked, okay? I'm glad you came home safe. Oh, you certainly didn't bother to find out if I was safe up to now. Shut up, Cedric. The whole world doesn't revolve around you. Nor you bastard. But you actually asked me how I was doing and what happened. I could tell you a really interesting story. But no, just Cedric overacting as usual. Lysander didn't miss a beat, picking up on what Cedric had just said. What interesting story. Cedric paused as he stared furiously at the wooden floor, worried he might have said too much. Come on, Cedric. I am curious after all. It probably would have been safer not to tell Lysander anything, but Cedric thought it was best to be honest with him. It was a bit of an excuse, though, because in reality, all he wanted to do was to tell someone else about what happened to him on the night before. I'll keep it short, as I don't feel like talking much right now. The bandit turned out to be someone I used to know very well, an old friend of mine. What? It's no big deal. He was the son of one of the servants that used to work for my parents. We were great childhood friends. You were friends with the son of a servant? My apologies, Cedric, but that's ridiculous. What could you possibly have in common with the likes of someone like that? I can read. Friendship doesn't distinguish between classes, Lie. We're all people. You know that. That might be true, but there's a reason why the poor are poor and we are not. It's in their own inclination, for if they worked hard enough, they would be like us. And you mingling with someone like that worries me a lot. Oh, you have a capitalist here. You know what? Why don't we have a talk another time? I'm not in the mood for stupid ideas. Alright then, Mr. I spend time with the common folk and cannot spend more than 2 seconds with my friend. Have it your way. Lysander stomped off towards the kitchen, or stomped, and Cedric sat there in the chair, staring at the ceiling once more. The more he thought about it, the more he realized just how much he really disliked Lysander, and to hear the lion talk about his greatest friend so dismissively certainly didn't help. Most of the day went by as Cedric kept to himself and his thoughts, mainly how much he found Lysander annoying, and how he blamed him for getting him into this situation. Cedric had never been good at saving money, and after he met the lion, the problem had only gotten worse, to the point where his parents had ended up forcing him to leave, and hadn't sent him any money since. Now Cedric concluded that for some reason he'd also been hoping Lysander would be a good replacement for Victor, which was clearly not the case. Lysander was snobbish, petty, and selfish. Victor, on the other hand, still seemed just as kind, caring, and sweet as he used to be years ago. Eventually, Cedric spent most of his evening thinking about the fox, and just how much he'd like to see him again, to the point that he wondered if this was becoming a bit of an obsession. But he now knew he had to see Victor. Cedric spent the next few days searching the town streets, hoping to come across Victor by miracle. He had no lead, and the fact that Victor moved from town to town had to spend most of his life in hiding certainly didn't help. He tried asking people about his masked bandit, but still nothing. Eventually, he met a wealthy lady who claimed she had been mugged by what seemed to be Victor as he was walking home one evening a few weeks before. Unfortunately, she had been so scared she couldn't really give him any other details. He also spoke to some of the town guards, who told him they had been searching for this criminal's hideout for months, yet hadn't gotten anywhere. Cedric kicked himself as he wished he paid more attention to where that old building was while he was there. The light was starting to fade as Cedric walked past the tavern. He hadn't been there since the evening he'd met Victor, but seeing as he had gone nowhere yet, he figured he might as well have a quick drink there. Perhaps he could ask the innkeeper if he knew or heard anything about the bandits. Oh, there's a wanted sign there. I was gonna say help wanted, but no, that's a different wanted. As soon as he was inside, he noticed a large wanted poster on the door whilst he was closing it, and the image immediately matched Victor's masked appearance. Wanted, dead or alive. Any person that catches this criminal shall receive great compensation from His Majesty the King. Cedric scoffed slightly, as if the king cared or even knew about some bandit in a small town. He walked up to the corner where the innkeeper was serving some beer to a few other customers. Once he'd finished, he turned toward Cedric. "Evening, sir." Oh, he looked like a pig from a distance. "What can I get for you?" "A large cider, please." He looked back at the poster as the innkeeper filled his glass. "You recognize that criminal?" "Yes. I mean, it's complicated." "Well, this guy's not very good at keeping secrets, now is he?" "I've been searching for him for the last few days." "Oh, want to receive the great compensation that poster mentions?" "I wouldn't bother, as they don't specify the actual price." "Do you know anything about him? Or has anyone told you anything that might help me find him?" "I'm afraid I have to disappoint you. I've heard surprisingly little of him." He paused for a moment. "Although, I heard a few clients of mine were ambushed after leaving this place mere days ago. Yeah, I was one of them. Oh, really? I'm sorry, I didn't recognize you. It's fine, don't worry. You want to get even with him? Cedric looked slightly confused for a moment. Oh, no. Well, not exactly. Quite alright. It's none of my business after all. The coyote had soon finished his pint, paid the innkeeper, and was out on the streets once more. It was dark now in the street, and the streets were quiet, much like the night when he had been walking home with Lysander and his friends. For a moment, it felt like he was actually still wandering along the alleyways with them, and that none of the events that had followed had actually taken place. As Cedric marched on, he turned a corner, and at that one precise moment, he thought he caught a glimpse of something. No, someone. He was sure he saw the figure on one of the rooftops. Oh, there he is. I was like, is he in the streets? Oh, he's right there. That looked like Victor. It had to be him. But as soon as he noticed, it was gone. Everything was silent and still, just like it had been a few seconds before he saw the figure. It could have been anything, perhaps a large bird. Cedric sighed as he quickly concluded his mind was starting to play tricks on him, and that was probably the best if he went home and had himself a good night's sleep. Then he felt a hand on his shoulder. Hello there, pretty boy. I thought I recognized you. Cedric turned around excitedly. Victor! Shh! Keep it down, idiot! Victor clasped a hand over Cedric's mouth to quiet him. You silly dog. I'm a wanted criminal, remember? Sorry, I've been looking for you. It was wonderful seeing you again, and I've been thinking about you a lot the past few days. Also, he must be like a high-up criminal, because if they're like, here's this poster of this criminal, the mask would probably not be very useful, because people would just be like, there's the guy with the beak mask, and the hat. Victor was excited, and somewhat amused by the idea his friend had been thinking about him so much, especially because he had been doing the exact same thing. Suddenly, he became self-conscious of how close he and Cedric were standing to each other, and how his body was pressed close to the coyote's. Ooh. It was probably way too close for either of them, he thought. He quickly let go of him and took a few steps back, brushing his coat and gathering his composure. Likewise, Cedric. Look, why don't we talk somewhere more private? I'm sure we still have a lot to say to each other. Of course. A short time later, they were back in Victor's hideout and were sitting in the room Cedric was starting to become quite familiar with. Victor had lit a few candles, and the atmosphere was unexpectedly cozy. Cedric was on an old straw bed again, whilst the fox had pulled up a chair in the room. So, what's on your mind? Why were you looking for me? Well, the main reason was I really wanted to see you again, but I also needed someone I could talk to. Basically, I'm stuck. I'm in a bad situation, with no one I can really count on, and seeing just made me realize how much I've lost. Victor was silent for a moment, then scoffed. How much you've lost? Cedric, I'm a one criminal spending my life in hiding, knowing my parents don't want to see me ever again, and that I most likely will never make it out of this mess I'm in. Well, you're the son of some nobleman that's just having a moment of crisis during his perfect life, his steady income, a family to return to, and friends he can rely on. Not to be rude, but I think you don't really understand the situation. My parents kicked me out of their house months ago. I have no money, and to avoid sleeping on the streets, I had to stay at my friend Lysander's aunt's house. Well, I thought he was my friend at least. In the last few days, I noticed I don't really like him at all. Hell, he's one of the people responsible for my downfall, always inviting me to parties, balls, and gambling houses, and so on. After all, he can spend all the money he wants. His family's the richest in the whole country. I couldn't afford this luxury, and I was a fool for thinking there would be no consequences to my actions. And now I'm stuck, just like you. The only reason it doesn't look like it is because of my appearance and fancy clothes. That didn't feel like a very satisfied note to end on, but Cedric couldn't really think of anything else to add, so he sat there in silence and waited for Victor to say something. I. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that, and you're right. I had no idea what you'd been going through. I'll be honest with you, Cedric. I felt some resentment towards you these last few days. That was because I didn't know what happened to you, and I was just naively assuming your life was perfect. I understand. I was too embarrassed to tell you about it all the other day. Victor got up from his chair and slowly walked towards the door. He opened it, and Cedric got a glimpse of a small, winding staircase beyond it. Follow me. I want to show you something. Cedric walked over to where he was standing, and the two made their way up the stairs. Can I ask you something? Anything you'd like. I was thinking back on the day you left. You both know the main reason why that happened, but I couldn't help wondering if there's some other reason my parents didn't tell me about. His train of thought was interrupted as soon as they reached the top of the staircase. Cedric was surprised to see a large window that led onto the roof of the building, and beyond it a beautiful view of the moonlit town. He could now understand where they were, and this must have meant Victor trusted them enough to know he wasn't going to give away the location of his hideout. For a moment, Cedric felt very proud of himself. Wow, it really is something. Beautiful, isn't it? Yeah. The fox stepped onto the roof and begged his friend to follow him. Come on, I'll show you where I spend my nights most of the time. Cedric followed him almost instinctively, even though he had no idea where they were headed. I'm sorry, I forgot to answer what you were saying. The fox suddenly sounded a bit nervous. Yes, I think there might have been another reason. You know we were very close. I think they might have feared we were too close. That we were lovers. Cedric was taken completely by surprise. He'd never even entertained this thought. I suppose that makes sense. We were always together. Victor began walking again. Pretty much. Conversation grinded to a halt for what seemed like way more than a few seconds. The two walked along the tiles and reached the rooftop of a nearby building. Victor sat down against one of the chimneys, and Frederick did the same. This seems a bit perilous, just saying. So what are you going to do now? I mean, in the next few days? I have no idea. I was thinking about leaving town for good. I'm tired of wandering the same places all the time. I want to try heading east, towards bigger towns. Who knows, I might get lucky and be able to find some work there. Granted, I'd have to busy myself with some new clothes and change appearance as well as my name, but it would be more than worth it for a fresh start. Now, is he talking about to not do a life of crime or to do a life of crime somewhere else? Because you'd think he'd just change your clothes here. No? For a moment, Cedric became worried. He wasn't going to see Victor ever again. Trying to suppress the bubbling panic, he gathered his thoughts and answered the fox somewhat jokingly. Maybe I could run away with you. It's not like I have any other options anyway. Victor looked at him, and suddenly his eyes seemed to light up. Actually, that idea isn't half bad. You could come with me. I'd be happy having a traveling companion. You mean it? Of course. Life's way more fun when you've got some company. I'd have someone to talk to besides myself, and between the two of us, I've talked to him way too much already. He noticed Cedric was looking a bit uneasy and likely conflicted about the whole matter. He leaned towards him and held his hand reassuringly. Look, think about it. And if you decide you're serious and you want to come with me, meet me on the outskirts of town tomorrow night. Tomorrow? Cedric asked even though he had heard it the first time. I will. I need to think about it though, but you have no idea how much I want to. The two spent another hour sitting there, quietly chatting and just enjoying each other's company and the beautiful view of the rooftops. It was moments like these, Cedric thought, that made life really worth living. And with that, and us pretty much hitting that 1 hour mark, I think that's a good time to call it. Ooh, ooh. Boop. So, again, if you want me to play this game, then tell me, and I'll give it a point, which will put up higher on the user choice list. And also, like, we're finishing this thing. And if you want to play this game, you can get it free on itch.io, but if you want to support people that make this game and or get the news version earlier, then you can go to Patreon, which is $2 a month. Also, please comment, guys. I like comments, tips you like, dislike, tips, tricks, otherwise. If you like my YouTube and like see it grow, then please like, subscribe, and check out other videos to help it grow. And please remember to spay and or neuter your animals to help control the pet population. But that isn't the end of the video just yet, because we still got more to do, which is find out what we're doing next week. So, boop. Is there anything else I need to say about that one? I don't think so. So put that in the quick look folder, and the random number generated 1, which is cleaved. Cleaved the nuts. Haha, got him. Waiting for it to load. Boop. This all contains NSFW moments. Would you like to see this enabled? Sure. Though maybe we could change it later. Cleaved. A game about. Maybe turn down. Oh, this is the one that has Haps's stuff on it. Guess I just saw that guy there. He's a big fox when he's round. Let's see. It's a game about. Cleve follows the story of a prestigious, is that the word? Scientist who finds themselves torn from reality amidst a meltdown in their work. I don't know if that's how it works, but okay. Such an unforeseen incident splits existence itself, and the residual damage should obliterate any life caught within the blast. Yet, the scientist survives against all odds and awakens in lands unknown, their minds barren and confused. Their minds? Through this story, take the identity of this scientist to recover the pieces of your lost memories, and find yourself thrusted deep into the society never thought to be real by scientific standards. Build friendships, uncover secrets, explore the land, all to one day finally return to the home to the world you were ripped from. So if you want to play this game, it's available free on itch.io, and I'm just looking for a Discord. But if you want to support them and get the newest version earlier, 1 month early access to builds, it's $3.50 a month. Though, is there something that says earlier than that? No, it's just that. Hyena. Did they have a gallery? Yeah, does look like it. Okay. Until next time, another quick look. GamerWolfSix of another furry visual novel, that being this one. So, thanks and see ya. Oh, and what was the other one? Yeah, just to say it again, $2 a month for the previous one, for early access, and for NHL. Yeah, so now thanks and see ya.